may be seated, friends. I want to welcome you to Stillwater Church. My name's John. I'm one of the pastors. I'm still one of the pastors here. I know some of you are wondering, I was gone 2 weeks in a row, and that does not happen very often. But boy, it's so good to be back with you. The reason I was gone is actually I started back in April to work on a degree, on my doctoral degree, and that it's a really cool program that it takes about 3 years or 3 to 4 years, depending how long you take with it. And you do all your reading and writing and that stuff from home pretty much, but you go down 3 different times for a period of a couple weeks at a crack and do all your coursework that way. So it's built for pastors who are serving a church, so you keep on serving your church and you do this kind of in the meantime. And so I've had a few questions on that. People asking, how long? And so in that 3 to 4 year range, somebody asked, does this mean we have to call you doctor in 3 years? No, we don't do that. You don't call me reverend now, right? So why would we start with titles? That would be silly, right? I'm not really a title person, but I love to learn. That's something I'm very, very passionate about. And I've wanted to do this for a while, and sometimes you just have to say, it's time, let's do it. And so Jennifer and I gave it a lot of thought and prayer and think that this is a good season for us to do this. Somebody asked, does this mean you leave Stillwater? No, it has nothing to do with that. It means that hopefully I get a little smarter. That would be the theory here, right, if I can do that. Somebody asked, what am I writing about? Hey, doctor, you do a dissertation, and mine will be on the characteristics of pastors who lead significant change. That's stuff that really interests me a lot, and I really want to spend some time diving into that really deep. So I'm excited to get to do that, to get to study that over the next few years. Somebody else asked, does this mean you're going to start giving shots? That was actually my daughter who asked that question. I told her there is a chance, so don't want to mess with me, right? But no, nevertheless, it's just an honor to get to be back with you, and I've missed you all so very much, and it's great to be back this weekend. I know you got to hear from a couple of my friends, Caleb and Mike, who I love those guys and think very highly of them and their ministries, and so I'm glad that you got to encounter them. So we're picking up back in Esther this weekend. We're talking about Esther a lot this summer. We're going through the book, kind of verse by verse, telling this story. And just to kind of get us back in the Esther mode, because I know we went off of that last week, it starts off with King Xerxes. We also call him King Jerxes, right? Because he's not really a very nice king. He has all the power, all the money, and he uses it pretty much for himself. He loves to party. He doesn't respect women. He's just not a great king in these regards, but he is the powerful person. And so Xerxes is having a massive party, and to wrap up this party, he commands Queen Vashti, his queen, to come in and kind of perform for the guys. Not a real honorable request. They're all drunk and whatnot. And or you remember the VeggieTales version? He asked her to make him a sandwich, right? I think that's a good version. And she says, no sandwiches, king. And you can't do that. You can't do that if you're the queen. You do not have the right to tell the king no. And so Vashti is out. He kicks her out as queen. She's no longer the queen. And so he still has his harem of likely hundreds of women, but he does not selected one to be the queen. So after a while, he decides, instead of doing the logical thing and picking one from the harem, he decides to bring in a whole lot more women. And they're each going to get their night with the king, and then he's going to pick the one he likes the best to be the queen. It's a terrible thing. It's a wrong thing to do. But it's the way that this king operates. It's the way this king runs the kingdom. So remember Esther. Esther is a foreigner. She's from Israel, her family is from Israel, not from here in Persia. Her nation had been conquered. The Israelites had been conquered by the Persians, and they had been hauled off into exile there in Persia. So this is where Esther lives. Esther is an orphan who is raised by her cousin Mordecai. So she doesn't really have much for power or standing in that world. She's a foreigner. She's an orphan. She doesn't really have much going for her there. But interestingly, she gets picked up by the king's search for the queen, and she's the one who he selects to be the next queen. So she goes from low and powerless to being the queen, just like that. So Esther's in this place where we're picking it up today. is that she's been queen for probably about 5 years now. And we run into a problem because her cousin Mordecai works for the king. He has some type of job there. And there's another guy named Haman who also works for the king who outranks Mordecai. The challenge is that Haman is an Amalekite, Mordecai is an Israelite, and Amalekites and Israelites do not get along at all. Okay, they've got a major problem between these two people groups over many generations. And so Haman and Mordecai do not get along. It's really like a racist kind of thing, right? It's not like disagreements on this, that, or the other. They don't like each other for who they are. Not a good thing. And so Haman demands that Mordecai bow to him, okay? Because Mordecai is below him, and Mordecai refuses to do this. Now, sometimes we think, oh, well, he didn't do this because he only worships God and not people, but that's not it. Haman was not commanding Mordecai to worship him. He was commanding him to show respect, and Mordecai is unwilling to do so. It's really a foolish thing to do. I mean, because but he chooses to not do that. And so this causes a big problem. Because of the deep-seated hatred, Haman goes off the deep end, and he not only wants to kill Mordecai, he wants to kill all Mordecai's people, all the Jews. This likely would have been millions of people. So Haman makes a generous donation to the king and asks for a law to be made that in 1 year, that all the Jews, it says, would be killed, slaughtered, and annihilated. That's how the verse reads, which sounds like a pretty serious thing, right? The people of Persia are going to have the right to go kill any Jews that they want to kill, and they get to keep their stuff. So they're actually incentivizing the people to go and kill the Jews. This is terrible. I mean, this is setting up King Xerxes as like Hitler 1.0 here, right? This is like an early Holocaust, if you will. It's an awful thing that he's doing. And so the law is put into place. So that now all the Jews are learning that they're all going to be able to be killed on this certain day. This is where we pick it up, Esther 4:1. When Mordecai learned about all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on burlap and ashes, and went out into the city, crying with a loud and bitter wail. Now, this seems weird to us. We don't do this kind of thing. We don't tend to go out and cry publicly, especially males. That's not a normal thing in our world, usually. But this is what they would tend to do. It's kind of a form of protest, saying this is not just, this is not right. So he puts on sackcloth, like potato sack kind of stuff, right? Not comfortable clothes, puts ashes on his face, looks terrible, goes out, and he goes around loudly wailing and crying. And he's making a point. Look at where he goes to. Verse 2, he went as far as the gate of the palace, for no one was allowed to enter the palace gate while wearing clothes of mourning. This sounds about right for Xerxes, right? While the king is spending time with his harem and drinking lots of wine, he doesn't want to see any sad faces, okay? We're not going to have it. We're not going to bring any bad news to the king. If you come to the king and you say, I got good news and I got bad news, he's going to say, great, give me the good news. And if you give me the bad news, off with your head, right? This is how it goes. The king doesn't want to have sad people around. So, but really, Mordecai's not trying to get the king's attention. He knows there's no hope in that. He's trying to get Esther's attention. And so he goes as far as the palace gate. Verse 3, as news of the king's decrees reached all the provinces, there was great mourning among the Jews. They fasted, wept, and wailed. Many people lay in burlap and ashes. They understand they've got this huge problem. Mordecai understands it especially because he knows why the law got made. Have you ever done something that seemed like a good idea in the moment, and later you look back and say, what was I thinking? What did I do? Like, you go to work and the boss makes you mad, so you tell off the boss and storm out of there. You feel really good in the moment. You go home and you look at your bills and you're like, oh no, I kind of need to make money, right? I need that job. Or you get in a fight with a loved one and you say stuff you shouldn't and you feel big and tough in the moment, but you realize, oh, that was not good. Not a good idea. Whatever it is. Mordecai has one of these moments. He realizes he's been arrogant, he's been foolish, and consequently it could cost all of his people their lives. Mordecai understands we need a savior. We need somebody to come and to save us, to fix this mess that Mordecai had made. He can't fix it himself. He's powerless to do so. Who's going to save us? Who's going to step in? Who's going to be the hero here? And of course, Queen Esther is who he's looking for. So he goes up to the palace gate trying to get her attention. Verse 4, when Queen Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was deeply distressed. She sent clothing to him to replace the burlap, but he refused it, which I think is very funny, right? Like, Mordecai, stop looking like this. Here's a new suit, okay? Does this make you happy? Let's just put on a smiley face, go away, let me do my thing. I'm queen here, right? This doesn't work for Mordecai, though. Verse 5, then Esther sent for Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs who had been appointed as her attendant. She ordered him to go and find Mordecai and find out what was troubling him and why he was in mourning. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the city, in the square, in front of the palace gate. Okay, so now we're sending somebody more important. Finally, Mordecai's getting some attention here, right? Like, it's kind of like the media are gathering, you know, to see what you're upset about. We're trending on Twitter, right? We got hashtag don't murder us, please. It's starting to become more popular. So he's getting this attention that he wants. He's getting the message out there. Verse 10, then Esther told Hathach to go back and relay this message to Mordecai. All of the king, I think I skipped something here. I did, didn't I? I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm off my game today, right? I take a couple weeks off, and here I am. Sorry. Back to verse 7. Then Mordecai said to him Mordecai told him the whole story, including the exact amount of money that Haman had promised to pay the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai gave Hathach a copy of the decree issued in Susa that called for the death of all the Jews. He asked Hathach to show it to Esther and explain the situation to her. He also asked Hathach to direct her to go to the king to beg for mercy and to plead for her people. So Hathach returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. So the queen didn't know about this law. For one, the king did not likely know that the queen was Jewish. I mean, remember, he just swooped up all the pretty girls he could find one night at a time, one with each one. There was no real application process here, okay? So he doesn't know that she's Jewish. He doesn't know what he's ordered here, and she probably doesn't even realize it. Verse 10, then Esther told Hathach to go back and relay this message to Mordecai. All the king's officials, and even the people in the provinces, know that anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die unless the king holds out his golden scepter. And the king has not called me to come to him for 30 days. So Hathach gave Esther's message to Mordecai. So Esther says, Mordecai, are you crazy? You're a king, he's a king's official, right? All the king's officials know this. Shoot, even all the people out in the kingdom know this. You don't go to the king unless he calls you. He doesn't have office hours, right? You don't just walk in and be like, hey, king, that law you made, it stinks. Let me tell you how bad it stinks. I got a problem here. You can't do that. He doesn't want bad news. He doesn't even want interruptions, okay? So you got to be kidding me, Mordecai. I can't just go waltz in there. I mean, yes, I'm the queen, but you may remember a story about the last queen. Remember that? The last queen, she was asked to make a sandwich. She says no sandwich. He says no queen, right? So here I am. The king hasn't even wanted a sandwich for like 30 days, right? Why do you think he wants one now? Why do you think he wants me to go? He doesn't want to hear this from me. If I walk in there, I'm dead. I'm dead. That's what she's thinking. Seriously, archaeologists have found a piece of art from this time, and it had a picture of the king sitting on his big throne, and it had behind him a guy standing there with an axe, right? Like, they take this stuff very seriously. If the king doesn't like what you're doing, he can have you executed, right? It really cuts down on the number of repeat offenders, and this is how they did things. So if she walks in there, that's probably the last walk that she ever takes. This is risky business. But verse 13, Mordecai sent this reply to Esther. Don't think for a moment, because you're in the palace, that you will escape while the other Jews are killed. Esther, don't think that you're going to sit there all nice and pretty on your little throne and escape all of this. You're a Jew too. This is going to come out. Verse 14, if you keep quiet at a time like this is interesting. Deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this? Maybe this whole messed up situation where you become queen, maybe God will actually use this whole mess to bring about somebody good. Who's going to save us? Esther? Maybe, just maybe, God has put you in this place. And this is scary stuff if you are Esther. I mean, Mordecai's putting the fate of all the people on your shoulders, saying you're the one who's got the voice, you're the one who's got the ability, you're the one who could do this. You know, friends, I think that God calls all of us as followers of Jesus to serve him, to obey him. He has callings in our lives. He has things he wants us to do. It's so amazing that the all-powerful God of the whole universe chooses to bring his kingdom about here in this world through people like me and like you, right? God uses us to bring about good. He calls us. He values us. He wants us to serve. And granted, our service seems a long ways from Esther's, right? Because while God's called you to do things, probably none of them are threatening your life right now like this was. I mean, maybe God's calling you to, maybe you have a friend who's living certain ways that they shouldn't be living, and they need your support, and they need you to call them out. They need you to lead an intervention or something like that. And you think, man, if I do this, I might lose a friend. And you're right, you could. But compared to Esther, you'll lose a friend, but you will still have your head, right? You'll still be alive at that point. Or you say, you know what, I'm dating this person, and it's not a godly relationship. It's not who God would have me to be with, but this could cost me this relationship. That's a big deal. It is. But you will still have your head attached to your body, right? So we still get to keep living, right? And I know we look at Esther and say, oh, that seems so far off and so big. But God calls us to our own steps of obedience. This past couple of weeks, I was with my new group of friends, the 6 of us. There's a bunch of people in the program, but there's 6 in my little cohort group there. And about half of us are from the U.S. and half are from other countries. And we were in this room, and we were going around sharing. A couple of my American friends shared about their context, where they serve. And then next to them were the guys who were from other countries, and then there was me. One of them is from Nigeria, one's from the Congo, both in Africa there, and one is from India. And so my American friends shared, and a lot of similar stuff. Seems a lot like the world that you and I get to live in. And then my friends from the other countries shared. And the one from Africa, one of the ones from Africa, he is fairly high up in the education of pastors there. He is like with accreditation of seminaries and that stuff. He's a pretty important guy. And so consequently, his name is on some lists as being an influential person. And when rebels came and they took over this area, he's had happen 3 times. He's had rebels who have busted into his house, child soldiers between 8 and 12 years old. Imagine this, child soldiers coming in, all of them carrying AKs, right? They're serious weapons here. They have tied him up, tied his family up, had him on the floor face down with the gun to his head, and you have 10 or 12-year-olds debating about whether or not you're going to live. Why? Because he answers Jesus' call to his life. Is he slowing down? Is he stopping? No. You can't discourage this guy. You can't. He's come to America to get more understanding so he can go back and serve more effectively. Or then there was Sindhu, the guy from India. Sindhu is in the most heavily persecuted province there in India. And for Sindhu, recently 110 Christians were killed in the area that he lives. In fact, one of his pastoral peers was dragged out of his church, and they set him on fire and killed him. And Sindhu is going to go back home, and he's going to keep sharing Jesus. And then we have Jon who shares, who lives in beautiful Dayton, Ohio, and serves this wonderful church of lovely people who he loves very much. And I realize how easy my life is. All of us, friends, I know you got challenges. I know you've got problems. I got my own. I get that. But friends, we serve a God who calls us to be faithful to him, even when it's not easy, even when it's not convenient. And the danger of being in our position is that life often is relatively convenient. And we get used to that and we like it. So when God pushes us out of our comfort zone, we say, no, I'm good. We'll let a better Christian, we'll let one of those like super Christian people do that, right? Like that's for Jon's buddies around the globe, great, but not for me, right? But God calls all of us to serve him, all of us to obey him. And he doesn't just call us, he fills us with the power of his Holy Spirit. And that's amazing. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead, right? That's amazing stuff. How do my friends go back to their countries and serve, knowing that their lives are in danger? They've got the power of the Holy Spirit, and they know it. And they know it. And friends, God has empowered you, and he's called you, and he cares about you, and he loves you as well. And he wants for us to serve him. Esther had a calling that was difficult. You may have callings that are difficult too, but by the grace of God, people like you and me can say yes. And by the grace of God, he uses us. And here's the big idea with faith. You might write this down. Faith is an internal conviction, okay? It's an internal conviction that leads to external action. Faith is an internal conviction that leads to external action. Or as James 2:20 says, faith without works is dead. If I say that I believe in God and I have it all here, but it's just a concept, friends, I haven't found that saving faith yet. Faith without works is dead. God calls us not only to believe in him. Jesus said that even the demons believe in God. So that's a great start, but don't stop there. It's not just about that. That's a great start. But then it's this faith that comes into my heart that impacts the way that I live. That when I hear God's voice saying, Jon, you need to do this, or Jon, you need to not do that, I say, okay, God, I want to follow. I want to obey. Or when my community group challenges me on something, I say, ouch, but okay, I want to do that. I want to be faithful, right? When your family members who love Jesus, they challenge you to do this, say, okay, Jesus, is this of you? Because I want to do it if it's of you. I want to be faithful if this is of you. And listen, I'm not here saying life's all going to be roses and bunnies and easy and all this stuff if you obey Jesus. It works well for Esther. It does end well, right? Not to give the spoiler, but it's going to end okay for Esther. You probably guessed that. John the Baptist also called to be faithful, and John did lose his head over the whole thing. I'm not telling you that life's always going to be easy. My friends around the globe, they don't expect it to be easy. They expect it to be hard, in fact. And that's why they do it. That's why faith is an internal conviction that leads to external action. Esther had a tough decision to make. Would she risk her life going into the king's presence? Or would she try to lay low in the palace and hope that God sends somebody else? God, please send somebody else to do this job. Is that what's she going to do? Verse 15. Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai, go and gather together all the Jews of Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will do the same. And then, though it is against the law, I will go to see the king. If I must die, I must die. So Mordecai went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. Esther hears the voice of God. She listens and she says, okay, we're going to need some serious prayer here. If I'm going to do this, I'm not going in unprepared. I need you to fast. I need you to pray. I need you to support me in this. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to put my life in God's hands. And we all want to put our lives in God's hands. And usually we don't feel that that's like a physical step, right? Like I might die doing this. That's not usually our reality as Americans. But nonetheless, I want to put my life in God's hands. God, here I am. My life, my money, my family, whatever it is, it's yours, God. Take me. Use me. Use me for your glory. And you know, as we look at this story, we see how a couple things. First, we see how God uses people, even reluctant people. God uses them in incredible ways. But second, the story really points us back to Jesus. You might remember in Luke, after Jesus rises from the dead, he's rode to Emmaus with those guys, and he's talking with them, and it says that he showed them throughout the whole Old Testament, throughout all the scriptures there, who he is, how these things had all been pointing to Jesus Christ. And so this Esther, it shows us a bit who Jesus is. We'd say that Esther is a type of Christ, or like a foreshadowing of who Jesus would be. Those are kind of theological terms. I like that, maybe kind of like the Happy Meal version of who Jesus would be, right? She's the real basic, simple version of Jesus in a sense. And what that sense is, that Esther becomes the mediator between the king and his evil law and her own people. A mediator is somebody who stands in the middle of a conflicted situation where this is not going to be bridged on its own, but the mediator helps work with each side to make this possible. So for Esther, she's going to go in and she's going to appeal to the king. Jesus did something different. You see, Esther's people had a problem. That was an earthly problem. They were likely to be killed. You and me have a different problem, though. This problem is our sin. The Bible tells us that our sins separate us from God. And it says that the wages or the payment of sin is death. Not just like dying when you get old, but eternal death, eternal separation from God. So, well, why? That doesn't seem good. Why would God do that? Well, God is holy, perfect, righteous, and just. And a just God, who's holy and perfect, cannot ignore sin. It's not justice. If somebody robs your house tonight and you turn them in and the police arrest them and they go before the judge and the judge says, hey, that's so wrong that you did that. You shouldn't have done that. Go home now. You're like, what? I want justice, right? I want my stuff back, and I want that person to go to jail, because this is how justice operates. It doesn't mean I'm vindictive. It's just I want justice. And God is a God of justice, and so that means that sin must be punished. It must. And if the wages of sin is death, I'm a sinner, you're all sinners, we've all got a massive problem, because that means that I can't pay the price for my own sins. It's not just like, oh, maybe if my goods outweigh my bads and I'm better than my neighbor and the average person, it should be good. Right? No. Holy, just, righteous. This is God. John, not holy, just, righteous. How do we bridge this? And we have this incredible hope of Jesus Christ, who comes down from heaven, who lives the perfect life. Think about that. Because Jesus is 100% man, 100% God in this holy mystery. And he comes down, tempted as we are, the Bible says, yet he does not sin. He doesn't sin, and he gives his life for us. And so when you pray to Jesus now, you're not praying to somebody who's disconnected from your world. You're praying to somebody who's been here, who's done that. When you're tempted, you say, Jesus, help me. He knows what it's like. He felt temptation, and he said no. If you feel rejected by your friends, give it to Jesus. He knows. His yelled, crucify him, right? Mine haven't done that lately. He knows. If you're in mourning, if you're in hurting, give that to Jesus. He lost a friend and he wept. Jesus understands pain. Jesus understands hurt. Jesus understands what it's like to be us. I'm guessing he hit his thumb with the hammer a couple times in the carpenter's shop, right? Jesus understands. He knows. So he came here with this incredible truth that when God saw you and me lost in our sins, he didn't write us off. He's the creator. He could have moved on to another universe, right? But no, he comes here to be with you and me, and that's how much you matter to God. God would send his only son. While you and I were dead in our trespasses and sin, God sends his son who gives his life on the cross, who's raised from the dead, but he's not done today. The Bible tells us that he ascended into heaven and he sits at the right hand of God the Father. And what's he doing? He's making intercession for me and for you. That's great news. So when God looks down and he sees messed up, sinful John, no longer does he say there's no hope for him. No, Jesus says, I got him. It's right there. It's my blood. It's my sacrifice. John is now clothed in the righteousness of Jesus Christ. Something he couldn't earn or deserve, anything like that. No, a free gift. And that's the key. It's a gift. And when you're given a gift, you have a choice. Christmas Day, you can leave all those presents under the tree, right? And go on and live as if they don't exist. Friends, will you accept that gift that Jesus has given? Because he's given it freely. It's your choice. Will you say, Jesus, I need you to come into my life. I need you to forgive me. I need you to heal me. I need you to save me. I can't do this on my own. That's a free gift, and you can say yes to that. And that's where it all begins. That's where it all begins. And then it gets lived out every day saying, Jesus, I want to live for you. And some days that's going to be great and easy and wonderful. And other days that's going to be terribly hard to do. But you don't do it alone. We do it with the power of the Holy Spirit. That same power that raised Jesus from the dead is going to help you through the things you're going through right now. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will not give up on you. He won't. He loves you, and his gift is here for you this day. Would you pray with me? Jesus, we praise you that there's power in your name, that you are the best mediator that could ever be. Well, we know that Esther went to Xerxes, but we know that you are sitting there right now at the right hand of God, the Father Almighty. God, we give you praise. God, I confess I can't do this on my own, Lord. I can't pay the price for my sins. For me and anybody else here today, God, I need your forgiveness. We need your forgiveness. Lord, would you come into my life? Would you save me? Would you change me? Would you help me to be more like you? Would you help me to take the next step of obedience, that when you call me to do something, God, I'll say yes and I'll do it, even if it's tough, even if it's risky, even if it's costly. I'll say yes because you've asked me to. You've called me to. Lord Jesus, we love you. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.